It's time for Jujutsu Kaisen Chapter 251, the decisive battle in the uninhibited demon-infested Shinjuku, Part 23. And I have to ask, how high is that number going to go? We are at the point where this title has been used for almost 10% of JJK chapters. Anyways, we're starting off with Sukuna towering over Yuta. He managed to grab the sword and still looks pretty intimidating. But that cleave from the end of the last chapter did land. The scars on Sukuna's head are bleeding. The King of Curses recognizes the technique, but still doesn't know how Yuta managed to copy it. Still, there's no reason to hide the truth. Yuta points out the one thing Sukuna was never able to find: his final finger. Sukuna had figured Gojo was holding it. Turns out that Yuta ate it. The flash must have been enough to let him access the technique for copy. Before Sukuna can respond, Yuji punches him right in the face with his new demon arm, landing a roundhouse blow on Sukuna's jaw. The mutated sorcerer's strange face is covered in blood, and his regular eye seems to be gone at this point. Still, he manages to come up with a snarky comeback for Yuta, calling that finger quite a meal. Yuta glares at the King of Curses. He's not going to banter with this guy. Before Sukuna can do anything else, Yuta lashes out, hitting Sukuna in the gut with his palm. At the exact same time, Yuji grabs Sukuna's head and pulls him down using gravity to slam his knee right into Sukuna's nose. But the fun doesn't last very long. A muscle-bound arm goes around Yuji's back as Sukuna pulls him into a tight grip. The King of Curses is grinning, laughing at all this now. With his target unable to block or dodge, Sukuna hits Yuji right in the chest with this mantle, causing lines of force to cross all over his gut. Yuji keeps his eyes locked on Sukuna as blood starts to fall from his mouth. But instead of giving up, he keeps his grip on Sukuna's head and spits out a fountain of gore right into that compound mutant eye. And that's when a well-placed fist comes up from beneath Sukuna's arm, hitting him right in the jaw. Yuta took advantage of the distraction, landing a strong hit and giving Yuji time to get away and recover. Even while he's on the floor bleeding out, Yuji's mind entirely focuses on the job at hand. This is his chance to finally beat Sukuna. It's his chance to get Megumi back. He can't rest at a time like this. He's chanting in his head, heal, heal, heal. These attacks are starting to have an effect on Sukuna. Both his cursed energy output and his control of Megumi's body have started to slip. And while Yuji's only just now getting back up, Rika's grabbed Sukuna, lifting him up overhead. Instead of slamming Sukuna into the ground though, Rika throws him at Yuji. Yuji plants his hands on the ground for balance as he pivots up and kicks Sukuna right in the head. Despite all the movement, Yuji and Yuta keep their eyes trained on Sukuna. They see him slowly begin to separate his second pair of hands. Sukuna's actually intimidated by the damage they're doing, so he's taking a gamble. He's going to release Hollow Wicker Basket, the one thing keeping him safe from Yuta's domain. In theory, that will let him use the world-splitting slash and kill them both in one shot. But Yuji and Yuta already planned for that. Yuji gets the first move, grabbing one of Sukuna's lower arms and holding it tight. Rika grabs his upper two arms, leaving only one free. That's enough for Yuta to get close. Sukuna tries to block him, putting one hand to Yuta's head, but it is too late. Yuta lunges right at Sukuna's gut mouth, punching it. He manages to pull out Sukuna's bloody second tongue, as well as a few newly broken teeth. But Yuta does not have time for a second attack as Sukuna throws a slash right at his head and it knocks Yuta back. But the damage has been done. Yuta throws the tongue down to the ground, satisfied. They have a simple plan to deal with Sukuna's big gojo killing move. It's not that easy to do. Yuta figured out that since Sukuna couldn't do it while using Hollow Wicker Basket, he needs this body's mutations to pull it off. He has to use chance, hand signs, or both to do it. And if they keep attacking, they won't give him a chance to do either. If Yuji and Yuta can do enough damage to Sukuna's body and keep it damaged, that big fancy move won't be possible to do. Sukuna throws another dismantle at Yuta as he charges in for another attack, but it's weaker than before. Yuta doesn't stop, sword raised, ready for another blow. And as Yuta lowers his stance, ready to close the distance, something red flashes in front of Sukuna's eyes. Out of nowhere, the blood that cakes Sukuna's face just explodes, blocking his vision at that crucial moment. Sukuna wasn't expecting this. He wondered what was going on, but he just managed to notice what caused this. It's Yuji's blood. The blood Yuji spat at him just a minute ago. That wasn't just a random bit of defiance. Yuji's new demon arm comes with some basic use of the blood control curse technique. Due to the distraction, Sukuna's arm goes flying, cut away with one blow from Yuta. Sukuna's second mouth has been wrecked. One of his arms has been straight up severed. He will not be pulling off the world-splitting slash until he's healed all of that. And hey, reverse curse technique can heal these wounds, but with Sukuna this week, it will take a while. Yuji and Yuta really pulled this off, but now it's time for a flashback to explain the rest of the good guys' plan. Yuji's been studying Yuki Tsukumo's notes on souls. It's got some good news. According to this research, usually if souls are mixed together, they will never become one. Choso's not so sure about that. Yuji and Sukuna stayed separate, sure, but he's a cursed object combined with a person, and he's never sensed another soul inside his body. Yuji's best guess is that this was specific to Choso's creation, due to the massive energy gap between a cursed object and a non-sorcerer. Most of the time, even if two souls are linked, they are going to stay two souls. They don't just merge out of nowhere. Still, there's a problem here. That most of the time part still has Choso worried. They've already spotted one loophole. Megumi could be another exception to how souls usually work, but it turns out Yuji added that part to Tsukumo's notes. She originally concluded that it was straight up impossible for developed souls to merge like that. The thing that has Yuji worried is Mahito. The curse had the ability to affect souls with idle transfiguration. While he mostly just messed around with individual souls, Mahito could join them together to create a separate creature. That's what soul multiplicity did. So it is possible to merge two souls together. Still, it should take a specialized curse technique to do that. Without one, Yuji's pretty sure they're safe. Sukuna's curse technique is literally the opposite of what they're worried about. It's focused on cutting things apart. All of this is assuming Tsukumo's notes are right. There is no guarantee of that, but Yuji trusts her, so he insists that he will make this work. He's going to wake up Megumi's soul no matter what. And he's got one more bit of lore to help him. Hana Kurusu speaks up, explaining that Angel's curse technique might be useful for this plan. Jacob's ladder is supposed to be able to nullify a target's curse technique. That should have let them kill Sukuna. His mutated form is part of his technique, mixed together with his personality and fingers. But since Sukuna's curse technique is connected to the brain of his host body, that should have killed Megumi too. That's why Angel tried to get Hana to use Jacob's ladder right away, rather than risk Sukuna more fully connecting to his new host. Still, Yuji's plan might give them another shot at doing this safely. If they separate two souls, that will also separate Sukuna from Megumi's brain. He'll be back to that early stage where he was most vulnerable to Jacob's ladder. This is when they solidified the three-stage plan. Punch Megumi and Sukuna's souls apart, use Jacob's ladder, and save Megumi. Back in the fight, Yuta has a perfect setup for this. Rika has two of Sukuna's arms held, and Yuji has the remaining one. Sukuna's gut mouth has been wrecked. There is no chance of him landing any big attacks. Instead of relying on his domain, Yuta takes a second to use hand signs. He's not just going to use Jacob's ladder. He's going to perform a maximum output version of it. A bunch of stars form in the air as the technique charges up, and then it hits. A massive pillar of light completely engulfs Sukuna. He can't even move as his head rolls back. Yuta takes advantage of that, stabbing his undamaged arm. Sukuna tries to struggle out of Rika's grip, but Yuta's getting closer now. This is his big moment. Calling out for Megumi, Yuji charges up a black flash and punches Sukuna as hard as he can. The strike hits home, splitting the two souls apart. This whole plan was perfect. Yuji and Yuta accounted for everything. They outwitted the King of Curses and finally defeated him. However, they made one mistake. They didn't think about what state Megumi would be in after all of this. He's just lying there on the floor. Even though Yuji reached him, Megumi has had enough. He doesn't even want to look up at Yuji. His sister's dead, Gojo's dead, Higuruma's dead, and Megumi is partially responsible for all of that. He has totally lost the will to live. And Yuji doesn't have an immediate way to cure that. What do you even say to someone who watched his own body kill the people he loves? How do you convince them to go on living? Unfortunately, Yuji doesn't have an opportunity to think of anything. He is out of time. They needed Megumi to fight, to separate himself from Sukuna, and he doesn't have the spirit to do that. With Megumi's spirit receding, Sukuna regained control of his body and its cursed energy. The division they spent this whole fight building up just faded away. As Yuji comes back to reality, he hears that three-part chant: Scale of the Dragon, Recoil, Twin Meteors. Sukuna's unleashed the world-splitting slash. And Yuta took it at point-blank range. The hand with the ring that connects him to Rika has been severed. He's taken a cut right across the torso, splitting him in two. That is the same wound Gojo took. Granted, Yuta hasn't gone through as much fighting as Gojo did, and this didn't hit anything vital. But losing that ring hurts. It's going to limit Yuta's access to his full cursed energy. This is a major blow. The impact hit Rika badly too. Slashes have materialized all over her head, and she is leaking blood. Yuji's taken a hit from this as well, though it's hard to see how bad it is. Sukuna just stands there, triumphant as 3 of his foes fall to the ground. Rika's been carved in two by that final slash. Yuta's domain is starting to break up now that he's no longer able to maintain the barrier. Sunlight is beginning to leak in from the outside. And at this final moment, having finally achieved his perfect victory against 2 powerful, frustrating foes, Sukuna doesn't look nearly as happy as you'd expect. And that's because he missed something through all of this too. Something really simple that he should have thought of. When someone is certain that they have completely won, that is the perfect time for a surprise attack. He let his guard down, but the fight is not over. A sword has been plunged right through his torso, caked in blood. A third sorcerer has shown up right behind Sukuna. He hasn't even had time to fully heal his missing arm, and he's taken another major wound. That is how Maki Zenin enters this fight. And even with her sword through his chest, Sukuna grins back at her. Maki is one of my favorite characters, so I am really excited to see what she can pull off in this fight. But while Maki is praised, I'm sure her relative Megumi is going to receive a ton of slander. I almost want a refund on my Fortnite skin. I'm sure you guys have a lot to say about Fushiguro here, so let us know in the comments. As always, I'm Slice of Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.